So we are back here again, and we're going to do another topic here. And I've been getting situations coming up here lately where I've been having people who are going through the soulmate, the twin flame, the assorted labels and paraphernalia that goes along with it. Excuse me. And they're all pretty knowledgeable about the concept, and they have some basic understanding, finally, after so many years, that it's a process. And that part of that process is to go through the elimination of impediments and blockages that they have at a personal level, the development of their individuality, individual personality. And if it's moving on towards some kind of relationship, the big challenge at this particular point in time, the big challenge is allowing it to come into form. And I want to use that as the theme for this video, because I see a lot of people are having problems with this. The way I'm going to approach this is, as you go along, and in the beginning, I know a lot of you remember this when you first had your heart center awakening, and you had no control over the situation. The damn thing just opened up and did what it wanted to do when it wanted to do it, and you just kind of had to go along with it. You didn't have any choice. You remember that? All right. And it wasn't a matter of surrender at all. It just happened, and it happened. And you had no choice. You had no choice to do something. You had no choice when your belief system started to fall apart. You had no choice when circumstances, relationships, situations, and friends all started disappearing around you. You had no choice. You just stood back and you watched this marvelous mechanism in the center of your chest do whatever the hell it wanted to do. Taking this out of your life and taking that out of your life, and in some cases, forcing you, literally, wailing and gnashing of teeth and stubbornness and resistance and all of the stuff that went along with it. You had to do something. You had to allow whatever was coming to be created and brought into form by keeping your thoughts, ideologies, belief systems, religious indoctrination, and basic everyday living out of the way. Remember that? And somewhere along the line, some kind of sanity or presence or state of mind or state of being or state of consciousness was born in you. And what happened is, this is what I want to talk about now, but in a later stage, if I can put it that way. I think a lot of you have come to realize that this whole planet and the population of people that's on it functions around one basic premise. Even though we have different cultures and different races and different belief systems and different religions and yada, 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 and so on and so on, we still have one core premise that we all follow on this planet to continually to create our society as it manifests today. Our society today and all of the things that you see in it, the manifesting in different parts of the world, have a creator. Any of the chaos in our society and the positive in our society and the structure of our society, even the shopping centers in our society, everything in our society is built, constructed, and manifests around one basic premise. Eliminate that premise, and our society falls apart. Period. And that premise is relationships. Nothing happens on this planet that isn't created by the human species through relationships. Now, does that kind of give any one of you out there a significant and importance of how important relationships that you get into are? Because they have ramifications everywhere in your life. It spreads out like a ripple effect. So in order for our society and our species to survive, because at the present rate that we're doing it, and the condition of our planet, and the rate of consumption that we're doing, it's very obvious at this point that this planet cannot support the continuation of relationships as they are and are today, going forward, and allowing that to multiply continually through the aspects of what we see now. And this is a scary thought. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, you may have had the odd dysfunctional family here and there. Now, today, dysfunctional families and dysfunctional children are considered the norm. You can go into any public school, any high school, any college, any university, and you can see dysfunctional people getting educated through a system, that's all it is, a system of civilized brainwashing to produce nothing more than a repetitious clone at the end of it that is inbred and bred into to be nothing more than an educated, smooth consumer. That's how our relationships have been manifest. So having said that, and if someone will say, well, that's because we have a few people on the planet that control all the money. The reason they control all the money is because we let them. It's that simple. Once we all decide that they're not going to control all the money, because money is a vibration, that's all it is, and what you have on this planet is a lot of people who are not greedy, they're just money collectors. Everybody collects something. There's nobody on this planet that doesn't collect something in some way, shape, or form. Other people just have bigger collections. That's all. You see. So anyway, having said that to you, and maybe perhaps I'm getting some of you who are deeply involved in a twin flame connection or a soulmate connection, and all you can see is the two of you and the dynamics that are going on between the two of you. You can't see beyond the two of you. And everything that every two people on this planet right now and in the spiritual community that are involved in the dynamics of the twin flame connection or the twin flame soulmate situation are involved in the big picture. Because everything that those two people do will affect immediately their immediate soul group, their bloodline, their existing relations and people, and will also affect the genetic and hereditary codes, the DNA, ultimately, if they can do something that is still not being done in the spiritual community. And I see this all the time. What we have now is we have a whole pile of people who have gone through somewhat of the process of the twin flame connection, the twin flame union, the soulmate, whatever label you want to call it, relationship aspect. And they can recall the beautiful dynamic, and they call this a union. All right, they call it a union in a lot of places, which they still don't know what a union is. And some of these are supposed to be some twin flame experts, and they still don't know what a union is. What's happening is I'm getting people now who are, like I said, pretty well versed. They understand, they have a grasp of what's going on. They believe that they have surrendered to the process. and they're still having problems. What's the problem? If you remember in the beginning, when you first had that dynamic connection, and I've been saying this for years, I've been saying it for years, and sometimes I wonder if people are still getting it. You're in what I call the bubble of, or the mystical phase of that togetherness, union, whatever one you want to call it. You were, for a temporary period of time, in union. Everything was wonderful, blissful, fun, all that caca shit that everybody talks about. And you want to have it again. You were given a short-term experience of what it can be like, so you have something to move toward, to attain, and you're going to have as many shots at it as you need or require, and a lot of you are not making it for one reason. There's this silly belief system out there that you can only have one opportunity out there, and this is repetitiously reproduced by some people, for lack of a better expression, who continue to perpetuate it. What is happening here is this is when you came together in the bubble love phase, did you have a choice when it happened? Did you have a say in when it happened? Did you have any control of what went on within it? It just ebbed and flowed and it seemed to be all there, and it was, after it was there, you stood back and you say, how did it all happen? I don't understand. I didn't do anything. It just was all there and it was just went beautifully well. And what happened was is you had a part of your consciousness out of the way. The analytical, intellectual part of the mind had been submerged long enough for you to identify your true self, and then got to experience it from a soul vibrational level in that bliss-like state. So you had an opportunity to perceive it trumply. So what's happened now? The heart center came into play and you had no control. You had to do something. You had to wait until it came into form. And when it came into form through the heart center manifestation, you developed a new personality, less a lot of belief systems, less a lot of people, and less a lot of material shit you probably didn't need, or less a career and a job that wasn't going anywhere and you weren't happy at. And finally, you started to identify and find self, and this is when it started to change. So now, sooner or later also here, and I'm going to say this, and some people are not going to like it, everyone is going to go through this relationship dynamic in whatever gender mode they favor or whatever, it doesn't matter. Everybody's going to go through it. And I say this with great conviction. If any of you think you're going to just float through this and some divine guidance and osmosis process is going to give it to you all and you're just going to float right through it, not going to happen. That's a fantasy, delusional dream. It's not going to happen. You're going to have to earn it. Work through it to the degree of someone who knows they're evolving and changing and turns it into the aspect of, this is going to be interesting and fun. So what am I going to do to really enhance this process? I'm going to say a word here. And I would like everybody to go in the dictionary and look it up. It's called allow. Whatever is coming for you, based on the new you that has been incorporated through the remodification of the heart center chakra, which is incorporated and instilled within you, new and appropriate belief systems for you now at this particular point in time, a state of consciousness that is applicable to those belief systems. At this point, I see a lot of people who are in the twin flame soulmate, whatever label you want to use, connection. And because they've now created and had a whole lot of belief systems that they've added in, or they've borrowed from somebody else, or they've looked at on the internet, or they've been in a Facebook, twin flame Facebook group, or some other group, and they've added in these concepts. Now what's happened is they're all excited about the twin flame connection, all right? And a lot of them call it a relationship. Jesus, must you do that? Don't call it a relationship. The moment you start using the term twin flame relationship, you immediately segregate it to the vibrational input of the present belief systems that you have about relationships. Be that as it may, whatever you've taken as information. Very few people right now, and I know there's a few on that are going to hear this and they're going to like it as a compliment. There are very few people who have come up with their own concept of what a twin flame connection is like. Most of you have picked it up from somewhere, and there are very few people that have come up with a concept. Yes, they understand it's a twin flame. Yes, they've seen a lot of information, but they've come up with their own concept without the input of others around them. So they're coming together now, and you have these two people that are coming together. And what happens is they understand the purging and the cleansing process at an individual level goes on. They've developed the personality, all right? And they have attained a 12 chakra system and a new meridian system and all of the rest of the equipment that's necessary that goes along with it. So what's the problem? Now, in that situation, here's what's happening. We have a lot of people who are at the pinnacle of the apex of the twin flame union. I do not like the word relationship. And I'll tell you why. Because relationships as a new template that can manifest in physical reality has not been permanently instilled within the collective. And there's a reason for that. What we have going on now is people calling it a twin flame relationship, and what's happening is the residual patterns of their belief systems that they've acquired since they became aware of twin flames that they've gleaned and gained from other sources of information are now adding belief systems that are restricting the twin flame connection to the old relationship concept of the belief systems of the individuals that have taken them in. So here's the dynamics. What we have going on here is we have a situation where relationships is part of the outcome, but it's the dominant part of the outcome that I'm seeing that the two individuals, or one or two of them, want. And how do they manifest that? Now here again, I'm going to pick on you ladies, all right, just a little bit, all right? I have found, and there's men that do this, but the majority happen to be ladies, all right? Even though they understand it's a twin flame connection, they understand that there's a union that is possible, what they do is they want to see it from their perspective and their level of consciousness, and there is a level of consciousness that you have to be in to see this. They want it, and they see it, and they fantasize it coming into some form of relationship dictated to by them, their now present concept of relationships, love, and sexuality at their present state of evolution. And this is where it gets mucky as hell. Because what you're doing is you're doing the same thing that other people do in the past. You're taking that concept, and what you're trying to do is, instead of allowing it to take form, and this is what the part of consciousness of evolution we're all going to have to start understanding, is we need now that we've been encrypted, downloaded, templated, and have this situation of a consciousness that's stable, questionable in some people, and as consciousness is continually evolving, we now need to remember what it was like when we had the heart center awakening. Remember I'm going to repeat this again because I want people to hear it. You had no control of what manifested. You had no control of the changes that were coming. You had no control of your heart center. You couldn't turn it off and turn it on whenever you wanted. It did what it wanted, whether you liked it or not. And it made all of these significant changes in your life. And the more you fought it based on your belief system, the more difficult it got and the more painful it got. Correct? Are you listening out there? And what happened is, as soon as you decided to do something else, you said, oh, geez, I just better surrender to this. It got easier. But even in the surrender, you're still in the background saying, I wonder what's going to happen. Maybe I should just look in my head and kind of imagine what's going to happen and all that kind of stuff, or fantasize what's going to happen. And what you did was you made it worse. Because now what you did, because of the open heart center and access, relatively speaking, to higher energy and vibration, you started creating a vibration and an energy that was in conflict with what was trying to be created. So you created more chaos. You were not yet ready to be a creator. Not yet. Because all of this stuff was going on. Until something happened. Until the elimination, the dark night of the soul, as some of you call it, eliminated all of the trash programming. The dark night of the soul coming. What a stupid way of putting it, dark night of the soul. There's no such thing as a dark night of the soul. All you're going for was a spiritual dump. You were going for a good shit at an emotional, mental level, and getting rid of all of the crap that had been affecting you for probably most of your life. And the longer the deep night, dark night of the soul, as you call it, went on, just showed you how much you had in the poop sack of crap and all that kind of stuff. Actually, the dark night of the soul is the best part of your life. Once you understand what's going on, it's not a state of depression at all. It's a state of mind necessary to put you in the right frame of mind so that you can start dumping all of this program. It's a very positive, creative time in your life. Of course, you don't see it that way because you have a limited belief system, you see. And you have something else. And I'm going to say this, probably going to hurt some people's feeling. You have a very limited state of consciousness. Now, back to what I was saying is when you actually experience the idea of the dynamics of where you are, and you've gone past the surrender, you say, oh, I've surrendered, I've surrendered. No, you have not surrendered until you've done something else. Go in your Funkin' Wagnall and in the dictionary and look up the word allow and see what it means. All right? Allow. Allow what is coming for you, and potentially with the other person, to take form on its own. Do not involve yourself with preconceived ideas, more as evolved as they may be, about a relationship between two individuals. And someone's going to say, well, how can a relationship take shape if nobody has any plans and expectations? That's what the question somebody's going to ask. Yeah, and I got the answer. Because what you're going to do is you're going to create a relationship based on your present belief systems about love, relationship, and sexuality, which is not sufficient to get it into a union. Because you have belief systems. You must allow, at this point, it to take form. Now, I've mentioned what is form in regards to relationship. Everyone who hears the word relationships define it as being two people living together under the same roof. That's probably 90% of the population think that way. But in reality, let me put it another way. So I'll give you an example. I know quite a few sets of twin flames who do not do YouTube, who are definitely not in twin flame Facebook baby groups, okay, because that's what most of the twin flame groups are, is a place for babies to go and evolve and eliminate their diapers and all their caca poo-poo. That's what it's about. Some people are going to say, oh, geez, there's Mel criticizing and dumping on people again. I'm not criticizing or dumping on people. I'm stating a fact. It's a fact. Not criticism. It's a fact. Get it through your head. It's a fact. It's not criticism. You know, every time somebody says something that somebody doesn't feel is in the right vibration, it's criticism. You know, if I walk down the street and I see somebody getting hit by a bus, and I state it, is that a criticism? I saw somebody getting hit by a bus? Or I saw somebody walking down the street with one of those things in his hand, and he's paying so much attention to that, he walks into a tree or a telephone pole, and I said, look at this stupid idiot with that cell phone, and just look what he did. Look at the idiot. Guy's brainless. If he's that dumb to be walking down the street and not paying attention and walks into a telephone pole, the guy's an idiot. That's not criticism. It's a fact. You've got to be an idiot to be walking down, not paying attention to what you're doing, walking to a telephone pole. Because that's a level of consciousness that some people are at. The idiot stage. And we've all done it. I've had my idiot stage. And so has everyone who's listening to the video. So, in any case, so when it's taking form, you reach the point at the end. And this is the challenge right now for everybody. Allowing it to take form and getting this out of your head that it's going to take form in the traditional method that you knew, under the same roof, living in the burbs, buying the TV. That will take place for a lot of people because that's where they want to be and that's where they're going to go as it takes form. But as it takes form in that way, what will happen is all of the old trimmings, patterns, and ideologies and belief systems that manifested genetics and hereditary traits and dysfunctional patterns and mental and emotional conditions and or diseases and traits of behavior will be eliminated from it. So we don't have the basic dysfunctional pattern. But in many cases, the form, the new form that's taking place, will be different for some. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples that I know about. And this is my personal acquaintances. I know one particular set of twin flames, just one. Okay, actually I know more, but I'm going to give this one as an example. They live about 3 blocks from each other. They're both married to other people, and they're totally happily married to the other people with no intentions of leaving. And they each have a couple of kids. And occasionally what will happen is they will be guided or get together, they go out and they do some work in the community as a pair, as a couple, and they do it in different areas of society. It's spiritual work. I'm not going to mention where because you'll probably know who they are. And they are never intimate with each other physically, but they're probably playing hide the wiener a lot in the etheric planes, but not physically, because they do that with their physical partners. So there's no intimacy between the two of them. And then when they're done whatever they're doing, they go back to their regular lives, and when the time comes up, they do it again. Now some people say, well, that's not a relationship. No, it's not a relationship. Not in the relationship form, because as soon as you say it's not a relationship, you've dug up the old belief system that you personally have that says it's not a relationship. But who are you to decide? Because all your concept of relationship is based on your old belief system, you see. And this is the problem in our society. As these new forms of relationships are going to take place, we still got people doing that, seeing and wanting and say, well, this is not a relationship because it didn't happen this way, or this hasn't happened. And when you have someone in the twin flame connection and the dynamics doing this, it creates vibrational, dysfunctional, chaotic energy flow through the pattern. The challenge here at this point for a great many is to allow what form is going to take of that union between the two to manifest into physical on its own without either individual's input as to what they think should, might, or fantasize about happening. Now, some people are going to say, well, that's a hard one to swallow. No, it's not. Go back to when I said about when you were in the bubble love phase. Everything was beautiful. Everything was wonderful. Everything clicked. Everything took form. Everything took shape. Everything fell into place. Why did it all fall into place? Excuse me. Why did it all fall into place? You got to ask yourself this question. Because all of your present belief systems about love, relationship, and sexuality were submerged. They weren't there. And you were such in a high state, you couldn't remember them even if you tried. Now, do you understand where we're going with this twin flame dynamic? This is what it's evolving to. But the problem is we've got a few with certain belief systems about twin flames who have taken it and shrunk it down into a very linear perspective and kept it there in a box. And what happens is we've got a lot of people now who are all in the logjam of not understanding what has to take place. Because the belief systems that you've incorporated, and there's nothing wrong, your belief systems will change as you go along. But the form of your situation with your twin flame or your soulmate comes when you allow it to take place. And then once you start allowing it to take place, the next step is acceptance. Accepting that this is the form that it's taken because of the input of the two individuals in question based on their sense of individuality, personality, and the development of certain traits of personality that have happened along the way. And I'll repeat this again. Sincerity, honesty, compassion, gentleness, nurturing, etc., etc., etc. And the other component is this, that's important. You need to understand that the emotional experience of love has and still is creating a lot of belief systems for a lot of men, but more specifically for women. What that means is they have not let go of the emotional dictates of love based on the belief systems that the emotional response, which has been stimulated to incorporate belief system, has installed within them. You see. So, I can experience love for individuals. I love everyone I talk to. I don't necessarily like them, but I love them. I don't have a choice. It's just who I am. Even for me, when I look sometimes see somebody doesn't like my video and they don't like it, I said, this person doesn't know what they're missing. I'm a wonderful guy. How could you not like me? If you don't like me, you don't like yourself. I'm Mr. Wonderful, as far as I think. And I feel wonderful. And I give wonderful. So if you don't like me, you got a problem. Because you don't like me, you don't like yourself. Because I got personality. So anyways, when this happens in the twin flame connection, you can understand, and you need to understand, that all the dynamics of the word that we call love here have to be expressed through the heart center chakra. When it is, then that higher aspect of yourself, call it higher self if you want, super consciousness, super mind, can become the dominant part within you, which will facilitate for you and the other person, or it may even be by yourself, an environment, a lifestyle, a dietary intake, a condition of health that takes form without your intellectual, analytical input, using the power of the imagination, which I want to discuss for just a moment here, but this video is getting long. The power of the imagination in everyone has been stimulated to a higher degree of activity. And the imagination is a tool. People on this planet do not think. We don't know how to think. It's impossible. Impossible for us to think. We see. Everything we see. We see with the eyes, and every time we think we're thinking about something, we're actually seeing it. So when you're creating these new belief systems, you need to have time to dwell on the aspect that in these higher dynamics and higher levels of consciousness that you give to, you need to be very, very cautious as to how you use the imaginative faculty. And this is the next video that I'm going to be doing here. So I'm going to kind of lead you into it. The imaginative faculty becomes the tool of creation, and it's getting muddled right now because people are now using the imagination with their present belief systems as to how it should take form in a twin flame union. And this is a mistake. It won't work. The idea is to simply allow. Go on with your life, be creative, but if it's in that connection with another or another with yourself, allow it to take form in physical reality, and it will. And this is going to happen in varying degrees and stages depending upon the level of consciousness that the individuals attain. Now, let me point out to you something here. Every set of twin flames or soulmates that do take form are not all going to be on the same page or level. We're not all going to be at the same level of frequency or the same level of energy that's going to come in. That's going to be restricted by the belief system that we attain as we go along through the evolutionary process. That will be dictated at a soul level, pertinent to the growth that the soul wants to acquire for that particular go-round or in this particular timeline. Now, I think 37 minutes of information overload will probably do, so I'm going to stop there. And again, use the information, as I always say. And at all times, the information that I give is in general terms. I'm speaking in general terms. I'm not directing it at any one particular person and or group. It's general information which you can pick out the bits and pieces you like, and the rest you just leave it on the shelf for now. But right now, the challenge for a good many is allowing their situation to take form on its own without instilling in it any type of belief systems about relationships that you think about that you would like to see happening with expectation or agenda. They're not going to work. What it does is simply drag you back down to the emotional content of love, relationship, and sexuality. I feel emotional connection to a lot of people, but that emotional connection is not made through the solar plexus or the emotional body. That connection is made through the heart, where I feel the emotion, but it's expressed here. That's because I'm permanently in the heart center. There are still too many at this point who are fluctuating between the emotional concept and the spiritual concept, and they haven't got it focused by allowing certain conditions in their life to manifest at this point in the twin flame connection at this point. Okay, something to think about. But when it's happening to you, always think about the big picture that you're playing and the role that you're playing in your particular family or blood group. Think about the changes in the DNA. Think about the changes in hereditary traits, habit patterns, mental, emotional. It's never all about you and the other person. It never is. There's always a bigger picture in every one of these dynamic situations going on. There's a bigger picture. But too many times we get lost in the significance of ourself, and we forget that we have vision, that we can see that we are participating in a bigger picture and a bigger dynamic than what it is at this point. Look at it that way and you'll find the allowing to come into form much easier to do. Take care, my friends. Love you all.